we want to do something. And when this happens, when we do the parikrama pilgrimage, we totally absorbs in the wonderful pastimes of the divine couple. And then when we finish, we should repeat to other people who has not attended the yatra to give the benefit. And also it gives us the remembrance. So we will continue reading the Krishna book. But two things was very prominent during the yatra, was less sleeping and less eating. And I see profound result that I never felt like constipation or anything. We should keep our stomach nice and clean if we want to chant the holy name nicely. And it helps in all respects. Just give you an example, at the Badrinath we were staying, and they were cooking all this without the onion and garlic according to our requirement. And they're giving breakfast for $450, lunch for $550, dinner for $4, something like that. And I said, I don't want to eat. So I took the exceptions that I will eat when I want to eat and I will pay the menu price. And surprisingly, when we were checking out, I see the devotees were paying for their meal for 2.5, 3 days was 7,000, 6,000. And my bill for myself and Shyamvaleva was only 1,700 rupees. Because we didn't one lunch, we ordered one sabji and 2 chapatis. And in the evening, we used to drink the ginger tea or something like that. And it has helped us quite a bit. We never become sick. No indulgence, no heavy stomach. Wake up early in the morning at the auspicious place and chant the holy name in secluded places. Sometime even Ramapat Swami Maharaj used to call my name, where is Shyam Sundar? And then sometime I wrote to Maharaj where I went at the secluded places to chant, and Maharaj says, Hari Bol. So we should take full advantage, and I pray to you all that when we post it, I think it will immensely help you all and also help me to maintain that mood to chant the holy name so perfectly. That's the only thing we need to do, is to chant the holy name nicely. So I will start reading the Krishna book, chapter 87. Please forgive me if I have not started at the same spot where we left. But we will relish many wonderful instructions from the personified Vedas. But if this app allow me, I will take this snapshot and then we will not miss a single paragraph. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, after studying all the Vedic literatures and hearing from all the authorities, has given his opinion that Krishna is the only supreme master and that all living entities are his eternal servants. His statement is confirmed in the prayers by the personified Vedas. The conclusion is, therefore, that everyone under the control of the Supreme Personality Godhead, everyone is trying to show under the supreme direction of the Lord. We have no choice actually in our life. Some of the devotees, they were complaining, and I said, just remember the 3-step meditation of Satchidananda Swami Maharaj. He said, practice this 3-step and you will be able to see Krishna face to face. And what was the 3 steps meditation? First, you understand your position. Jivere Swarupa Hai Nityare Krishna Das. We are servant of Krishna. Everything comes in our life, we should gladly accept, because Krishna will never give us anything else than what we deserved. So everything, we are the one who is creating our life. We should not blame anybody. Second step is, if we sincerely seek what happens on to day-to-day life, meditate upon it. Pray to those personality, our spiritual master, to enlighten us why this thing happened. And if you try to understand, slowly and slowly, it will reveal to us exactly why it happened, why that happened at the time it happened. Everything will become very clear. And finally, we pray to make the prayer to Krishna that we are unable to sustain. Please assist us. Give us the enthusiasm, patience, compassion toward other living being. Those are the quality. It's not just for the to write or remember. We need to practice. Then we will see our life will become so sublime, so happy actually. Krishna consciousness. There is nothing else will give us the happiness that we derive the happiness when we chant intensely the holy name of Krishna. And if that is the case, then you want to chant more Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But until we reach to the state, it will remain a, some kind of austerity. But it should become a part of our life. Very nice. The atmosphere in Himalayas was so nice that you can dedicate a simply sit at one place on the bank of river and chant the holy name. And you can see the creation of God, how beautiful it is. Some of the scene, I have taken a picture from the bush, and everybody was so amazed that how beautiful you captured them. But I said, I don't capture anything, my camera does, But it's so nice, I would like to share with you all. So let's continue this. That everyone is serving under the supreme directions of Lord. We have no free, little bit free will, nothing. So enjoy that. And everyone is afraid of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is out of the fear of Him that activities are rightly executed. Everyone's position is to be subordinated to the Supreme Lord. Yet the Lord has no partiality in His view of the living entities. He is just like the unlimited sky. As the spark of a fire dance in the fire, similarly, all living entities are like birds flying in the unlimited sky of the Supreme Lord. Some of them are flying very high, some are flying at a lower altitude, and some are flying at a still lower altitude. The different birds are flying in different positions according to their respective abilities. But the sky has nothing to do with this ability. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord confirms that He awards different positions to different living entities in proportion to their surrender. This proportionate reward by the personality of Godhead to the living entity is not partiality. Ye yatha mam prapatyante. Krishna is giving clear indication. As you surrender to me, I will give you protections, and He has never failed. Always being under the control of the Supreme Personality Godhead in their different position, spheres and species of life, He is never responsible for the different living conditions. It is foolish and artificial, therefore, to think oneself equal to the Supreme Lord. And it is still more foolish to think that one has not seen God. Everyone is seeing God according to his capacity. One only difference is that Theist sees God as the Supreme Personality, the most beloved Krishna, and the atheist sees the Absolute Truth as ultimate death. That's the difference. Personified Veda continued to pray, "Dear Lord," they said, quote, from all Vedic information, it is understood that you are supreme controller and all living entities are controlled. Both the Lord and the living entities are called Nitya, eternal, and so are qualitatively one, yet the singular Nitya or the Supreme Lord is the controller, whereas the plural Nityas are the controlled. The individual control living entities reside within the body, and the supreme controller as super soul is also present there. But the super soul controls the individual soul. That is the verdict of the Vedas. If the individual soul were not controlled by the super soul, then how could one explain the Vedic version that the living entity transmigrate from one body to another and enjoy or suffer the effect of his past deeds, sometimes being promoted to a higher standard of life and sometimes being degraded to a lower standard. Thus, the conditioned souls are not only under the control of the Supreme Lord, but are also conditioned by the control of the material nature. This relationship of the living entities with the Supreme Lord as the control and the controller definitely proves that although the super soul is all pervasive, the individual soul are never all pervasive. There would be no question of their being controlled. The theory that the super soul and the individual soul are equal is therefore a polluted conclusion, and no sensible person accepts it. Rather, one should try to understand the distinctions between the supreme eternal and the subordinate eternals. This personified Vedas praise are so powerful. The personified Vedas therefore concluded, O Lord, you are the unlimited, eternal Dhruva, and the living entities are the limited eternals. The form of the unlimited eternal is sometimes conceived as the universal form. When we visited the Kurukshetra, that's also a banyan tree, and it's still living there where Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. And the battlefield of Kurukshetra is spread over 46 yojanas, like, or what we call this Brajamandala Parikrama is 84 kos. I think one kos is 8 miles, I don't know. But the battlefield of Kurukshetra was also 48 koshas. It says the 6th district currently were covered due to the armies of Pandavas and Kauravas. And it was not planned, but I posted, and Ramapad Swami Maharaj says that he goes somewhere, it's hard to find out where Shyam Sundar is. But I visited the place because different place, those different things happen. Where one of the place I mentioned to Maharaj, and Maharaj said, where is that place? Maharaj, it was very close to where you were speaking the Katha. And Maharaj said, nobody told us. Where the Bhima killed the Dushashan, and the blood was given tainted to the hairs of Draupadi. That place is there, very nice. And then also we visited where Bhishma Dev left his body. Still, its arrows and the body is there at the same spot where Bhishma Dev left the body. And it says the Bhishma Dev was so thirsty. So some of the Kauravas at that time, on the 10th day of battlefield, it says, and Kaurava came to give Bhishma Deva water, but Bhishma Deva didn't accept it. And it says that Arjuna at that time take the bows and arrow, and he threw into the ground, and the water came out, and it is very nice scene there that the whole fountain of water is falling into the mouth of Bhishmadev. Wonderful, wonderful places. And this, as I was reading about the universal form, that also in the Kurukshetra they have made a very beautiful, huge, I think 80 feet tall, a universal form of Krishna. Very nicely, very beautiful, very tall with the brush. It's so wonderful to see the eternal form of Krishna, universal form of Krishna. So, the form of the unlimited eternal is sometimes conceived as the universal form, and in Vedic literature like the Upanishad, the form of the limited eternal is vividly described. The others that we were, as I was mentioning at the Gupta Ganga, one saintly person was sitting there, and he said in 2007, whole was on the top of the Badrinath was ice. And he was sitting and meditating, and you can see how they were surviving in that, that weather. Something is the mercy of the Lord can make them the strength. So he was sharing that when you visiting these places is the place where all the demigod or Krishna may appear in a different form. You never know. So that the saintly person was telling me that it was, I think it's like a monkey, but there is a special word it's called. I have on my WhatsApp, I write the name of that bird or something. The saintly person says that in 2007 I was here, and 5 feet above the Gupta Ganga, which is very high, snow was filled up. And he said that, how come I forget that word? My wife remember. That's the name of the birds. They flew. And they came, and there were 3 mountain tops where that saintly person was sitting. And he said that each bird sit on the top of these 3 mountains. And he realized that these are not ordinary personalities. So he offered his humble obeisances. And he was thinking that maybe it may be too cold that they cannot take. That's a particular, I will write the name one day. I don't want to lose this page where we are. But there is a name of that you can see those type of birds in the Rishikesh area, but not on Badrinath. And the saintly person says also, in Badrinath, you should climb the mountain closing your eyes, because there is no snake, no fear, because Krishna Kaliya, Krishna dances in. So Badrinath is the place of Krishna, so they don't have anything to do with Badrinath. So walk freely. And then saintly person said, I offer my obeisances, and I was thinking that they may be too cold up, so they may be coming down. But in few minutes, they just climb very running the whole mountaintop. And the saintly person said that this is not an ordinary place. These are divine personalities. Sometimes demigod descend to these Himalayas. So it's very difficult to understand who those personalities come on your way. Wonderful experience. Spiritual form of the living entity is 1/10,000th like the size of the tip of a hair. And it is also stated that spirit is greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest. The individual living entities who are eternally part and parcel of God are smaller than the smallest. With our material senses, we can perceive neither the Supreme, who is greater than the greatest, nor the individual soul, who is smaller than the smallest. From the authoritative sources of Vedic literatures, we have to understand both him who is greater than the greatest and him who is smaller than the smallest. The Vedic literature states that the super soul is sitting within the heart of every living entity's body and is as big as a thumb. Therefore, the argument may be put forward: how can something the size of a thumb be accommodated within the heart of an ant? The answer is that this thumb measurement of the super soul is imagined in proportion to the body of the living entity. So in no circumstance, therefore, can the super soul and the individual living entity be taken as one, although both of them entered within the material body of a living entity. The super soul lives within the heart to direct or control the individual living entity. Although both are the dhruva or eternal, the living entity is always under the direction of the Supreme. So if we take complete shelter, then what is the problem in our life? Our problem is we have no faith in Krishna. That's the problem. We put faith in everything. You know, when we buy a ticket, we call our relative, come me and pick me up at the airport. How do we know that the pilot is in a good state of mental that he can take us safely? We don't know. Anything can happen. But we have so much faith in that because we paid the money. But here the eternal person is giving us all the guarantee. You surrender to me and you will get protected. And so many personality exhibited in their life, they surrender like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj. And what they gain everything. So if you want to be blissful, you want to be happy in this hectic material, rotten material world, take complete shelter of Krishna and see how the things change in your life. It may be argued that because the living entities are born of the material nature, they are all equal and independent. In the Vedic literature, however, it is said that the Supreme Personality Godhead impregnates the material nature with the living entities, and then they come out. Therefore, the appearance of the individual living entities is not factually due to material nature alone. Just as a child produced by a woman is not her independent production. A woman is first impregnated by a man, and then a child is produced. As such, the child produced by the woman is part and parcel of the man. Similarly, the living entities are apparently produced by the material nature, but not independently. It is due to the impregnation of the material nature by the Supreme Father that the living entities are present. Therefore, the argument that the individual living entities are not part and parcel of the Supreme cannot stand. Another example, the different part of the body cannot be taken as equal to the whole. Rather, the whole body is the controller of the different limbs. Similarly, the part and parcel of the Supreme Whole are always dependent and are always controlled by the source of the part and parcel, Haribol. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that the living entities are part and parcel of Krishna. Mam evanso jivaloka jivaloka sanatana. No sane man, therefore, will accept the theory that the super soul and the individual soul are of the same category, will be always his servant. They are equal in quality, but quantitatively, the super soul is always the supreme. And the individual soul is always subordinate to the super soul. That is the conclusions of the Vedas. The significant word used in this connection is Yanmaya or Chinmaya. In Sanskrit grammar, the word Mayat is used in the sense of transformation and also in the sense of abundance. The Mayavad philosophers interpret that the word Yanmaya or Chinmaya indicate that the living entity is always equal to the Supreme. So much ignorance. But one has to consider whether this affix Mayat is used for abundance or for the transformation. The living entity never possesses anything exactly in the same proportion as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, this Mayat affix cannot be used to mean that the individual living entities is quantitatively equal with the Lord. The individual living entity never has complete knowledge. Otherwise, how could he have come under the control of Maya or the material energy? The word abundant can be accepted. Therefore, only in proportion to the magnitude of the living entity, the spiritual oneness of the Supreme Lord and the living entities is never to be accepted as homogeneity. Each and every living entity is individual. If homogeneous oneness is accepted, then by the liberation of the one individual soul, all other individual souls would have been liberated immediately. But the fact is that every individual soul is differently enjoying and suffering in this material world. As mentioned above, the word mayat is also used in the sense of transformation. Sometimes it is also used to mean byproduct. The impersonalist theory is that Brahman himself has accepted different type of bodies, and that is his lila or pastime. There are, however, many hundreds and thousands of pieces of life in different standard of living conditions, such as human being, demigods, animals, birds and beasts. And if all of them were plenary expansion of the Supreme Absolute Truth, then there would be no question of liberation, because Brahman would already be liberated. Another interpretation put forward by the Mayavadis is that in every millennium, different type of bodies are manifest. And when the millennium is closed, all the different bodies or expansion of Brahman automatically become one, ending all different manifestations. Then, in the next millennium, according to this theory, Brahman again expands in different bodily forms. If we accept this theory, then Brahman becomes subject to change. But this cannot be accepted. From the Vedanta Sutra, we understand that Brahman is by nature joyful. He cannot therefore change himself into a body which is subject to so many painful conditions. Actually, the living entity are infinitesimal parts and parcel of the Brahman, and as such, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy. And as I explained before, the particle of Brahman are like spark, blissfully dancing within a fire. But there is a chance of their falling from the fire to smoke. All the smoke is another condition of fire. This material world is just like smoke, and the spiritual world is like a blazing fire. The innumerable living entities are prone to fall down to the material world from the spiritual world when influenced by the illusory energy. And it is also possible for the living entity to be liberated again when, by cultivation of real knowledge, he becomes completely free from the contamination of the material world. The theory of asuras is that living entities are born of material nature or prakriti, in touch with the Purusha. This theory also cannot be accepted because both the material nature and the Supreme Personality Godhead are eternally existing. Neither the material nature nor the Supreme Personality Godhead can be born, eternally existed. The Supreme Lord is known as Aja or unborn. Similarly, the material nature is called Aja. Both these terms, Aja and Aja, mean unborn. Because both the material nature and the Supreme Lord are unborn, it is not possible that they can beget the living entities. But it is accepted in the Vedic literature that as the water in the contact with air sometimes present innumerable bubbles. So, a combination of the material nature and the Supreme Person causes the appearance of the living entities within this material world. As bubbles in the water appear in different shapes, the living entity also appear in the material world in different shapes and conditions, influenced by the modes of material nature. Therefore, it is not improper to conclude that the living entities appearing within this material world in different shape, such as human being, demigod, animals, birds and beasts, all get their respective bodies due to different desires. No one can say when such desires were awakened in them, and therefore it is said, Anadi Karma, the cause of such material existence is untraceable. No one knows when material life began, but it is a fact that this does have a point of beginning because originally every living entity is a spiritual spark. As a sparks falling into the ground from a fire has a beginning. So a living entity coming to this material world has a beginning, but no one can say when. Even though during the time of dissolutions, all the conditioned living entities remain merged within the spiritual existence of the Lord, as if in deep sleep. Their original desire to lord it over the material nature do not subside. Again, when there is a cosmic manifestation, they came out to fulfill the same desires, and therefore they appear in different pieces of life. Still we have 4 minutes, let's see. The living entities merge into the Supreme at the time of dissolutions are compared to honey. In the honeycomb, the taste of different flowers are conserved. When one drinks honey, one cannot distinguish what sort of honey has been collected from what sort of flower. But the palatable taste of the honey presupposes that the honey is not homogeneous, but is a combination of different tastes. Another example is that although different rivers ultimately mix with the water of a sea, this does not mean that the individual identities of the rivers are thereby lost. And this is wonderful. You know, these rivers, when you go to these conjunctions where they meet together, it's in different color. And these Himalayans people were saying that in every year, according to the different season, they change the color. How beautiful it is to see. One person was saying that now it's look little greenish, but it become darkish green. And the other river will become darkish blue. And you can see the merging of this dark green, dark blue. What a wonderful scene maybe to see and observe. These people are so fortunate to observe how the nature works. who can color the rivers? No material element can change the color of the rivers. It's all done by the sweet will of love. Wonderful to see. They said every year in 4 seasons, all the rivers change their color. How wonderful it would be to witness those colors. When I send you the pictures of these prayags, where two different mixed together, you will see totally different color very easily merged there. Haribol. Although the water of the Ganges and the water of the Yamuna mix with the water of the sea, the river Ganga and river Yamuna still continue to exist independently. Haribol. The merging of different living entities into Brahman at the time of dissolutions involves the dissolutions of different types of bodies. But the living entities, along with the different tastes, remain individually submerged in Brahman until another manifestation of the material world. So our desire from this life to next life continues unless we change our desire, and that's the reason 6 Goswamis, particularly Rupa Goswami, has says that, we should control our senses to become free from this material world. That is the principal requirement, to become free from the demand and urge of the senses. Haribol. That is the first thing we should do. Even though at the time of dissolution they appear to merge, but the conclusion is therefore that even when the living entity becomes free from all contamination of material conditions and merge into the spiritual kingdom, their individual taste in relationship with the Supreme Lord continues to exist. It's not become homogeneous. So this is a wonderful part. Let me see while we are on the call if I can take that. Oh yeah, I was able to take the screenshot. So I know exactly where I have left. So looking forward for all of you. It was really disheartened to see a lot of the devotees that join regularly. I couldn't find their name on the screen today. It was really, really suffering moment for me to lose their association. But may Krishna give us the enthusiasm and courage to continue this path and join and give each other a kind association. Because alone it's very, very difficult. We need the association of the devotees. And I think this platform can fulfill those requirements and make us strong devotees and finish the work for what the purpose we have descended in the material world, Just finish this work, otherwise who knows what the next life will bring to us. I have seen the life, I have seen how the people are really poor, in bad conditions they are living, so millions and millions of people. When I see the life of a devotee, how wonderfully Krishna has given us the chance to uplift our consciousness and finish this work, not to remain bound by the collecting the money for retirement or all the things. Don't put your calculations. If Krishna doesn't want to be succeed, even if you have collected so many rupees and monies, dollars, Krishna can take away any moment. Don't depend on external things. Just become attached to the eternal, where he can give constantly support and guidance. Nobody has gone wrong by taking shelter of Krishna. Just see, we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, so many personality who has taken a complete shelter of Krishna. Does they have any anxiety? Nothing. Everything was fulfilled. So let's maintain that prominent thoughts in our mind, that the most important thing in our life is to give prominent morning time for chanting Hare Krishna, and nothing should come on their way. Absolutely nothing. There is nothing that nobody can bother you at 2 o'clock in the morning until 6, 7 o'clock. Take the advantage, brother and sister, to chant the holy name during that time. Otherwise, where is the other time will come that we will be able to chant the holy name so intensely? So I think we should stop here. And I think if anybody has any question, comment, corrections, please go ahead, because we haven't been joining for almost 13 to 17 days. Sometime I was there at the Badrinath temple, and early in the morning there are 6 devotees were there. I give them the complete from the outside because I was not inside the temple. So I was able to give them the external tour and the ambient of the Badrinath temple. Once in a while, I have another time also I join and I give them the glimpse where I was. And you know, the last day we decided that we will go to, instead of Dehradun, we will stay in Haridwar. And we will go for the Mangala Aarti at the Ganga Devi happen at 5:30 in the morning. And our mortal is not that far. They charge, rickshaw charge only 20 rupees. And you know what happened? While I was dipping in the Ganga Devi, at they call the Hariki Pori, where the Kumbh Mela happened, that wonderful place. You know, from Phoenix, Rajesh Prabhu and the Divya Sham Prabhu called me on my phone. And my wife picked up the phone because I was dipping in the Ganga. So she said Divya Sham Prabhu is calling, and Rajesh Prabhu also was there. So I gave them a whole tour of this place. You know, I converted it into the video camera, and they were so happy to see us. Their live Ganga Aarti and everything. So nice. You know, devotees, sometimes Krishna give them the intelligence to call, and I pick up the phone, and they got the chance to see the purifying Ganga's water at the Haridwar, where so many people were performing aartis and everything. So I run through on all 4 directions so they can imbibe that atmosphere, that they also should feel present at the Haridwar. So you never know how Krishna's energy works. But yeah, anybody has called me, I always try to answer their call. And if the connection is there. So it depends, by Krishna's grace it happens. But I was feeling, and Divya Sham Prabhu was feeling so happy, Prabhu, we are so lucky. Rajesh Prabhu also, and I forgot the name, his wife got initiated by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj lately. I have to remember her name. Her name was Sweta, but I think it's something with somewhere like, I don't remember, I don't want to misname her name, spiritual name. But she was also there on the call. She also see this wonderful place of Haridwar. Anybody has any question, comment, corrections? If not, then we can close our session.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Danvat Saman Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, wanted to ask you that I heard that that there was some landsliding and then yatra was cancelled to Badrinath. But did you again continued, or personally devotees went?
Yes. So yes, there were 600 devotees, and we supposed to go like tomorrow to Badrinath. And it happened that there was a big landslide day before, and it's closed all the road. Nobody can go to Badrinath, period. But within, I think, 18 hours, and I wrote as a comment to this organizer of this Badrinath Yatra team, that I think it was a premature message. They sent it on our group, 600 devotees, that landslide, and we have cancelled the trip to Badrinath. And we were determined to go to all these four dhams.